Hello, and welcome to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the injury market's top program for doctors, lawyers, and insurers who want to gain greater insight on how to improve patient recovery results and deliver better services in the U.S. injury market. Please welcome your host, Dr. Jeffrey Allen Kronk.
Okay, doctors, on this podcast, what I want to talk about is what does a spinal kinetics report actually do for you? In other words, what is excessive motion testing? What does it actually do for you? And I think this is probably one of the most misunderstood areas that there are. And today I want to clear it up because an excessive motion report. Now, excessive motion reporting is becoming a definite area of spinal injury, and it should. It completes the spinal injury evaluation. You cannot determine how badly damaged a spine is without an excessive motion report. Not all excessive motion reports are the same. In the personal injury space, you should be doing it with an unbiased, independent third party. That keeps you very, very safe in the market, and it keeps it so that you're understanding and you're giving the professionalism that this condition is due. So in my private practice, I always sent out for my own testing. I never tested myself. I always sent out for my own testing. And that's because early on in 1995, I realized how important these findings were and how important they would be if done independently. In other words, I as the provider could do them, but I was looked at as biased. So I don't want to have that biasness looked at. I don't want an insurance carrier looking at me and saying, hey, I'm manipulating test results to make the results look worse than what they are. And that's what happens. That's what happens with providers eventually when they start doing them themselves. And you also have providers across the country that are hiring. They buy these softwares and then they have people actually doing the testing that aren't qualified to do the testing. You have front desk people doing testing in some cases. You have people that have no ability, no skills, no licenses in the area of x-ray, and they're doing the testing. So here's what you get. When you actually do a test, this is why I love it so much. It immediately allows you to grade and determine the severity and location of any ligament injury in the spine. It immediately tells you if you've got a surgical level based on surgical guidelines, Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, EVCOR, and many others. It immediately tells you that. It immediately tells you if you've got any activity restrictions that should kick in under athletic return to play parameters. Now, for those of you that do not understand, I'm going fast, it immediately tells you the amount of impairment that you have. It immediately qualifies you into treatment guidelines, so you're compliant with your own treatment guidelines, makes it much harder for early care cutoffs to occur through improper utilization reviews or IMEs. It immediately tells you where the facet problems are, how bad and where are they. It immediately tells you if you have a high probability for a disc herniation, and it helps you to correlate that the disc herniation was caused by the accident and not a pre-existing condition. It immediately, this is probably one of the one that I like the most, it immediately determines and helps you to determine if you've got an upper cervical ligament condition that can be the cause of all symptoms associated with a traumatic brain injury. The upper cervical ligament injury will mimic every single symptom and more of a mild traumatic brain injury. So that's a really big benefit there. The last thing that it does is it shows you the segments that are at higher risk for what is called accelerated spinal degeneration. So you can grade the ligament injury, grade the severity and location. You can determine if there's impairment. You can determine if it's a surgical case. You can determine if you have athletic activity restrictions. You can quantify and qualify your care and put it in correct care guidelines. You can determine where the facet injuries are. You can determine where you're going to have the probability of disc herniation and determine if it's caused by the accident, not a pre-existing condition. You can determine that. You can determine if you've got an injury that will mimic all the symptoms of a traumatic brain injury, and you got the the understanding of what the person's accelerated degeneration future may be, because the more excessive motion, the more you're going to have that. And if you look up instability of the lumbar spine, clinical orthopedics and related research, 165, 110-23 by Kirkaldy Wildis, you'll actually see the degenerative cascade. It's what you all know. So this report is probably the most valuable report in conjunction with an MRI report. You cannot determine the severity and location of a spinal ligament injury without it. It's impossible. And spinal instability will give far more symptoms than the disc will. So this is the most important test in the market today. But if you don't give it the credibility and you don't give it the professionalism that it deserves, it will not give you the professionalism that you may deserve. So in other words, if you're not doing it in a highly professional manner, the most highly professional manner I can think of is to do it within an unbiased, independent fashion. I do attorney trainings now all over the country. And all over the country, if I ask the attorney, would you prefer to have this done by an unbiased, independent group, or would you prefer to have it done by the doctor? The answer is always the same. Medical doctor or the chiropractor, the answer is always the same. Now, when I travel across the country and I say how much it costs, the attorneys really can't believe what it costs. In other words, that it's that inexpensive, that it does all of these things for them. For the attorney that understands it, does all of these things for them at that cost. So 30% of their clients are going to have a surgical level of this condition. There's a technique that they do to expand benefits just with that. It gives them the impairment. It takes out pre-existing condition problems. It gives them a main injury that's going to cause the main symptoms of a traumatic brain injury, and they can correlate this. I mean, when I speak to the attorneys, they're like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" But how do we find a doctor that understands this? How do we find a doctor that understands even more so that we can learn more? And doctors, that's the biggest opportunity there is in the market. I know I've been the one that actually is exposing this. I've been in this market the longest. There are other people that now come in and say, "Hey, we do excessive motion testing." Or you have consultants today in the market that are promoting really weird excessive motion testing procedures that have no experience. You have people that have built systems that have never in private practice never tested for excessive motion testing. You have consultants right now in the market that in their private practice, when they were in private practice, never tested, never did any excessive motion testing, have zero clinical experience with it, but now they're a clinical guru. So you got to be really careful with who you're getting your information from. You know, with Spinal Kinetics, I'm very proud of the company. The company was started in 2008. We've been in the market now for 17, 18 years, never had a problem. 17 or 18 years, never had a problem. So you want to choose who you're doing business with. You want to choose wisely. The short road is not the long road. The short road is the long road. That's what I was meant to say. Sorry. The short road's the long road. So if you try to quickie this or you try to cut back, trust me, 2-3 years down the road, you will find out you have taken a very long road. And I never wanted to do that because I understood, I understood what the test results meant. So to me, this is one of the most powerful testing procedures. The very first time I saw it in 1995, I was in love with it and used it. And today I have really expanded the understanding of it. I've simplified the understanding of it. So it's in a very usable format now where you don't have to work so hard. Remember, you now can grade the severity and location of the ligament injury. You can determine if it's surgical. You can determine the impairment. You can determine activity restrictions. You can determine that you're in compliance with care guidelines. You can determine where the facet is and how bad it is. You can determine if the disc is going to be more probable than not. just from the test results, you're going to have a disc herniation. And if it was more on a more probable than not basis caused by the accident itself, and you're getting the segments that are going to be at risk for accelerated degeneration, so that supportive care is more understood. It's more rational. Like, what is it that you're doing and why? You, the doctor that understands what I just said, you are the most powerful doctor most knowledgeable doctor and most powerful doctor in the spinal injury market today, bar none, because you understand the main problem, the main injury that causes all the trouble. Now, there's a lot of people that want to jump on this, and they want to jump on it just to use terms to maybe show that they're good with it. The doctor that's good with this knows how to work up the spine, how to work up the non-disc ligament injury with a CRMA report. They know how to use that for their documentation so that everybody, the insurers, however many insurers there are, the attorneys involved can all use this to adequately determine or allow the patient or client access to any benefits that they may be entitled to. And most importantly in the market today is you, the doctor out there, that can get great results with this injury. You can get great results. In other words, you can do treatment. I don't care if you do 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, as long as the person rolls out the other end fairly symptom-free. And they have really no restrictions on their activities of daily living, their duties under duress. They don't have current duties under duress factors or loss of enjoyment factors. That's the doctor of tomorrow. That's the doctor that helps people make America healthy again. Because when we look at Make America Healthy Again, one of the biggest problems is the spinal chronicity rates. Chronic low back pain, chronic neck pain, chronic headaches. So doctors, I just wanted to give a little bit of a shout out today on excessive motion testing and just what you get from it. It's my passion. It's one of the things I love the most. Because my purpose is to standardize the spinal injury workups in the whole country. And once in the United States, in the whole world. The spine is easy. It only has three ways that you can injure it. You can break it, you can cause excessive motion, or you can cause disc herniation, or combinations thereof. That's it. So excessive motion testing for the excessive motion, MRI for the disc, and X-ray and CT for the fracture. That's the simplicity of it. Doctors, if you have interest in our program, my program called Smart Injury Doctors, go to my website, smartinjurydoctors.com, and search around on the site and just search around, look where there's a place that says, hey, schedule a consult with me. And schedule a consult with me. Schedule a 30-minute consult with me. Find out more about what we offer. Because we are helping the best doctors in the country. We're a movement that is helping the best doctors in the country do the best work on these injuries. Doctors, as always, I appreciate your time, your attention in listening to what I have to say. I look forward to delivering more content on the next podcast.
You've been listening to the Smart Injury Doctors Podcast, the #1 audio production show for professionals in the U.S. injury market that want to deliver better injury services to the patients, clients, or insureds they serve. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review and don't forget to join us on our next program.